Welcome to Wheelock's Chapter 4. This chapter, we're going to be discussing second declension neuter nouns. We'll be discussing various aspects of adjectives. We've already looked at the fact that we have masculine, feminine, and neuter adjectives, but we're going to be looking at the different functions of adjectives, either attributive, predicative, or substantive. And then thirdly, we're going to be looking at the very important irregular verb, sum, in the present tense. So let's do a quick review of what we've covered so far on nouns. If you'll remember, we said that the three main characteristics of nouns are case, number, and gender. Case, of course, is how the noun functions in the sentence. Number is the quantity of the noun, and the gender, of course, is the gender, either masculine, feminine, or neuter. Here are a breakdown of those categories. Case, we have nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative, and vocative. Number, we have singular and plural, and gender, we have masculine and feminine and neuter. Quick side note, I think I mentioned in the last video, there's actually a seventh case called the locative. We'll discuss that later. It's very rarely used, but we'll discuss that at another time. So previously in chapters 2 and 3, we had discussed first and second declension nouns. If you will remember, here we go. Here are the different paradigm or examples that we'll use for the different declensions. There are 5 of them. Aqua is the first declension paradigm noun. Second declension masculine is philius. Third declension, fourth, fifth, we'll talk about later. Today, we're going to be looking at, there we go, there's aqua. Yes, that was chapter 2. Chapter 3 is philius. And then chapter 4, which is what this lesson is about, we're going to be looking at second declension neuter. And the paradigm noun is saxum. It means rock. And so let's look at a quick review of first declension noun endings. You will probably want to say these out loud together with me. I, I, arum, is, as, is, I. Now keep in mind the AE is a diphthong. That means it's 2 vowels that are pronounced together for one sound. And that in the classical Latin pronunciation is I, as in isle. The macron, the long mark over several of these vowels, ablative singular, genitive plural, dative, accusative, ablative plural, the macron indicates a lengthening of the sound, essentially twice as long. So if you imagine in musical terms, 2 beats instead of 1 beat. And so really this pronunciation really should be I, arum, is, as, is, I. Now, often we pronounce the words a lot more quicker than that, and sometimes the difference between an elongated vowel and a shortened vowel is kind of blurred. How tedious or how particular you want to be on that is up to you. We won't count off for that in class. Second declension masculine, last week's lesson, or last chapter's lesson, us, e, o, o, e, orum, is, os, is, e. And that is our second declension masculine. And the good news is that second declension neuter, which is what this chapter is about, is almost identical to second declension masculine. Let's check out second declension neuter here. Here the endings are e, o, plural, a, orum, is, a, is, a. Now we're going to compare second declension masculine to the second declension neuter. What I want you to see is that they're almost identical. Here's where the differences are. In the nominative singular, instead of us, which is what we had for second masculine, we have So you have a switch there. And of course, we had our vocative rule that we've talked about, that whatever is in the nominative, the vocative will match. So in neuter, it's and in vocative neuter, it's We did say that second masculine is the one place where that breaks the rules. It's the exception to the rule. So here it's us and the letter E. But so that's a variation as well. Vocative is not the same. In the nominative plural, instead of the letter I, long I, which we pronounce E, we have a letter A. And then instead of the accusative plural for the masculine, os, we have, again, the letter A. And then, again, the vocative plural, instead of the long I, we have a letter A. So this is actually consistent. If you'll remember, let me pull this up here. Nota bene means note well. The neuter rule, this is a new rule for us, is that whatever is in the nominative must be in the accusative. You're going to hear that a lot for all the different neuter cases. Whatever, neuter declensions, whatever's in the nominative must be in the accusative. So is in the nominative. Guess what? It's going to be in the accusative singular as well. The letter A is in the nominative plural, and then letter A is going to be in the accusative plural. It's identical. And that sort of is very similar to, not only is the neuter rule in place, but again, the vocative rule is in place. Whatever is in the nominative is also in the vocative. So you can see the in the nominative singular and the vocative singular as well. The letter A in nominative plural, and then letter A in vocative plural as well. So I'm going to say these again. I would like for you to go ahead and say them out loud as I read through them. E, o, a, orum, is, a. So that is our second declension neuter. And here is our vocative rule that I already noted. Whatever's in the nominative must be in the vocative. They are the same. So how we apply this to second declension neuter nouns is just like how we did first and second declension. We're going to use this word, donum, means gift. And so donum and doni are going to be the words you find in the glossary. And so if you remember, I said that you'll find the stem by removing the genitive ending. In this case, it's the letter I, and that leaves us the stem, or the base, don, D-O-N. So you just put don all the way down. Don, 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 don. You write it all down. And then to that, you add your endings. And again, just to start the chant off with the nominative, which is where we're used to it, e, o, a, orum, is, a. And there you have declined a second declension neuter noun. So it's just a matter of remembering the variations in the second declension neuter as opposed to second declension masculine. Here's a chart that shows all three declensions together, first and then second specifically masculine and neuter. So I would practice these, get these down. You should know them. I, I, is, as, I, excuse me. Second declension masculine, us, e, o, e, orum, is, os, e. Second declension neuter, e, o, a, orum, is, a. So I would practice those, get those endings memorized, and you're going to be good to go. You can go ahead and pause here if you'd like to practice. If not, I'm going to move forward. If you practice, then I'll see you on the other side of the pause. We're going to talk about adjectives next. Now, we've already briefly talked about them. If you remember that adjectives have a masculine and a feminine and a neuter form. And the reason why is because the adjective has to agree with the noun that it modifies in case, number, and gender. So if the noun is the subject of the sentence and it's in the nominative and it's singular and it's a masculine noun, then you need to have a masculine nominative singular adjective that goes with it. In this case, that would be magnus. And if you needed something, an adjective to modify a word that was being used as a direct object, and again, it was feminine, and it's a direct object, it's accusative, so it's an accusative case, and plural, then you would use the feminine accusative plural, which in this case is magnas. Magnas. Now, quick reminder, the way that you pronounce the GN in this word, it's actually like an NGN, so it's really magnus. Magni, magno. I'll be honest, I say it so quick that it's really not very perceptible, but that is the proper pronunciation. Magnus, magni, magno, magnum, etc. All right? So that's the adjectives. We've already briefly looked at them, so that shouldn't be too much new information. Now, this may be a little bit new. The different uses of the adjective, there are three different uses that are primarily used in Latin. The first one is the attributive adjective, and this is an adjective that attributes a quality to a noun. And here, the example, we have the Roman poet loves the girl. Here, Roman is the adjective that is attributing a quality to the poet. It's a specific, in this case, nationality to the poet. It's not just any poet, it's the Roman poet. The second example is the predicate adjective. This is an adjective that is in the predicate that modifies the subject. Here we see the example, the poet is great. Here, great is an adjective, but it's not right next to poet. It's not modifying the subject poet directly. It's serving as a predicate adjective in the predicate that is modifying poet. The poet is great. All right. And then finally, the third use of the adjective is the substantive adjective. This is an adjective used in place of a noun. This is a great example here in English. You might have heard this before. Good overcomes evil. Well, what do we mean? Good is not a thing. It's an adjective. It's modifying something. And in this case, and same thing with evil. In this case, it's really what they're saying is good men overcome evil men. And so good is being used in place of the phrase good men, and evil is being used in place of the phrase evil men. And so you, as a reader, just understand that the word men is to be understood here. So good overcomes evil. So that is the use of the adjective. Feel free to pause here and review uses of the adjectives. The last thing we're going to look at today in chapter 4 is the irregular verb sum. Now, we've said that there are basically 5 conjugations of verbs. First conjugation, and the characteristic of that is the long A in the second principal part. There's the second conjugation verb with the characteristic long E in the second principal part. And we haven't studied third, fourth, or third IO yet. That will come later. So we've talked about the 5 conjugations. What we really haven't talked about is the fact that there is an irregular verb. There are a couple of irregular verbs that are used all the time. And here's one that's very important. It's the irregular verb sum, which means to be. So we have sum, est, sumus, estis, sunt. Now, what's really not too hard is if you actually drop the su or the es from the beginning of these, you can actually see the endings. If you remember, the present tense verb endings were o or m in the first person singular, so here we have an m. And in second person singular was s, and there's an s. Third person singular was the letter t, and there's the t. First person plural was mus, and here we have mus. Second person plural is tis, and here you have a tis. And then third person plural was nt, or nt, and here we have an nt. So to those endings have been added the su in first person, so now we have sum. Second person, we added the letter e, so we have s. Third person singular, we added es, we have est. And for first plural, we added su to make sumus. In second plural, we added es to make estis. And then in third plural, we added an su for sunt. So here we go. Sum, es, est, sumus, estis, sunt. Say it with me, please, out loud. Sum, es, est, sumus, estis, sunt. And just as the endings we translated as just I, you, he, we, you, they, as kind of your translation chant for these verb endings, here when you add these verb endings to these to this base here, we get a real word, and it's a real verb. It's not just an ending. And so we have a verb, the to be verb I am, you are, he, she, or it is. You could also say there is. We are for the plural. You all are. Estis, you all are, second person plural. And then finally, third person plural, sunt, they are, or there are. So this is the irregular verb sum, present tense. Sum es, sumus estis, sunt. I am, you are, he is, we are, you are, they are. So go ahead and take the time to practice this, learn this chant, memorize this verb, because it will be used all the time. And this is an irregular form that you simply have to memorize. So the last thing, of course, is you're going to want to work on your vocabulary. Make sure you look at the vocabulary slideshow and get this memorized for your quiz later this week. Have a very blessed day.